Hi guys, I hope you're having a fantastic day. So, I know it's been a while. Happy New Year, just in case I haven't posted a video this year. I know this is February, but I just wanted to share some updates and just bring you up to speed with what's been going on in the last few months. So, last year December, I had a webinar on provincial nominee programs. I don't know if to say it's some kind of foresight or what, but I wanted to, have webinars whereby we're talking about like different programs, other opportunities on how to come to Canada. And for some reason, I made it PNP. It went well, and I look forward to having a few more webinars this year. I'm trying to see if I can aim for one every 2 months or every month, but we'll see how it goes and I'll keep you posted. But that happened, and then by first week in December, IRCC came up with updates, which I hope I've posted something about that. If not, I'll just tell you what it was. So there were a few updates, and one of the most important aspects of the updates was the fact that the proof of fund requirement for international students was changed. Now, this was very interesting because from time immemorial, the proof of funds requirement for Canada, and that's like I'm talking about like close to 15 years or more, it's always been $10,000, and that's what it is in black and white. But we as RCICs, we've always known that that's not sufficient, and it's been a long time coming for them to change that from 10,000 to what it is now. Well, to be fair, we didn't think it was going to be like more than a times two increment. We thought maybe like a 5,000, 10,000. 10,000 was a bit much. But anyways, that's the reality on ground. So I've been saying it. The cost of living in Canada is pretty high. And a few people always felt that it's a more affordable option. It's not really, because the truth is, coming to study in Canada, you're coming and you're going to be paying international school fees of from about 10,000, 12, 15,000, 30,000, 40,000 per year. And this all depends on the school you're going to. And then you're still going to have to factor in cost of books, cost of medical insurance. Some schools factor that into their fees, just so you know. Cost of living expenses like accommodation, phone bills, groceries, transportation. This is a couple of things that you have to factor in terms of cost in addition to tuition fees. Now, IRCC, they're trying to be a bit realistic, and with the way the cost of things have increased since the pandemic, they try to be really, really realistic. And the new proof of funds for one international student coming to study in Canada is now 20,000, I think $635, and this amount increases. I'm going to try to put a table here to show you what it is per family size and what the proof of fund is for each family size. It's good to know that what you see here just include the cost of your travel from your home country to Canada, to have like a round figure of what they expect to see, plus the balance of your tuition fees. Anyways, that was one of the updates that they gave in December. Now, IRCC came up with new updates January 22nd. So IRCC came up with their new policy, and there are about, I think, three major announcements. The first one was that, let's go to it. So let me see if I can share my screen just so we have it, and then we'll talk about the additional updates they made. So January 22nd, they spoke about starting September 1st, international students who begin studying at programs that are part of a curriculum licensing agreement will no longer be eligible for postgraduate work permits upon graduation. This has to do, and just so that you don't get too scared and worked up, this particular announcement has to do with students who are attending schools whereby the main college, that's most times a publicly funded or public institution, partners with the private institutions, whereby the student attends the private institution, but when they graduate, they get a certificate from the public institution. Now, IRCC is trying to put a stop to it because there was some abuse going on in some of those arrangements. Not all of them were bad, but I think they discovered that a few of them were not, there was no way for the province to properly regulate what was going on in those private schools. And so IRCC has come to say, you guys are no longer going to get postgraduate work permits. This has now caused, I hear, some of those schools to bring forward their resumption and all of that. We don't work with any of such schools, so it doesn't affect us. But anyways, the next thing that they said was graduates of master's degree programs will now be eligible for a 3-year postgraduate work permit. And I kind of like that because we had some students, there was a particular year that we had 2 siblings that we sent to a university we work with. And one of the students went to do a 1-year program while the sibling did a 2-year program. When the student finished the 1-year program and we're trying to put in the application for the postgraduate work permit, once the approval came out, she was approved for just 1 year. And then that's how it was. If you do a 1-year program, you get a 1-year postgraduate work permit. But if you do a 2-year program, most times you get a 3-year postgraduate work permit. Or it's up to the visa officer. They'll say 2 to 3 years. So it's usually for the duration of your program. But when it becomes 2 years or more, you get more postgraduate work permit. Now, this student did a 1-year master's and she got a 1-year postgraduate work permit. I felt for her. But thankfully, she's young, she's a high flyer. She got a great job after graduation, and at the moment she's qualified for her permanent residency. But I really felt for her that all she was going to get was a 1-year postgraduate work permit after studying a master's. So I was pretty happy when IRCC came out with this announcement because it's good for the student that if you do a 1-year master's, you're getting more value. You're spending way more money to get that program. You're getting more value as to what you get after graduation, being a 2-year postgraduate, being a 3-year postgraduate work permit. And yeah, pretty much what it says. It says you are eligible to apply for a 3-year postgraduate work permit. It gives more credence to the value that you get as a master's as opposed to as a postgraduate program, diploma, or certificate. So what does this mean for people who are already in Canada or coming to Canada to study a postgraduate diploma or certificate? It means that the policy still is the same for you, but for master's students, you now qualify to get 3 years as opposed to the 1 year for a 1-year program, thing like that. Okay, so this is great. I don't really know, when we put in applications now with this new policy, let's see how it goes, because we have students that we've applied for. They did 2-year postgraduate programs because they wanted to get up to a 3-year or 2-year postgraduate work permit, and they got 3 years postgraduate work permit. So I'm hoping that doesn't change because, it's great that you have that many years. You get that many years for doing a 2-year program or 1-year each programs. I hope that was clear. Now, the other thing that was announced was the eligibility of students coming to study postgraduate diplomas, certificates, or other programs, postgraduate programs and below, their spouses not being able to qualify again for spousal open work permit. I know this was a bit of a downer, and I can kind of see why they do that. It seems very similar to what the UK is doing. And I've noticed that, I don't want to say that Canada is copying the UK, but we're seeing since last year, we've kind of noticed that they seem to be working. I don't want to say they're working hand in hand, but they're really working closely. The policies are getting a bit similar. Anyways, so this means that if you're coming to study a master's program or a PhD level program, you can continue to bring your spouse on spousal open work permit and your dependents on study permits and whatnot. But if you're on a postgraduate diploma certificate level and below, you no longer will be able to qualify. Now, what they said is in the coming weeks. So it's good to take note of the fact that that has not come into effect yet. And we're still submitting applications for people who are ready and want their spouses to come before the policy comes into place. So just take note of the fact that it says in the coming weeks. Now, another policy, which was the main policy out of all these policies, is the attestation letter. Oh my God. This attestation letter caused so much havoc. For the first I think for the first 2 weeks of the announcement, so from January 22nd to like 2 weeks after, schools were in chaos. Like we were getting emails left, right, and center. Schools assuring us to calm our clients down. And we had like several webinars where they were trying to explain what they felt they understood by the new policy. They explained that even the provinces have no clue what exactly this means and what exactly it entails, but that as more information is released, they would give us more details. And I had to attend a couple of these things because I also had I had clients asking me, what next, what does this mean for us? I don't want to do a postgraduate diploma anymore, I want a master's. Like there was so much going on, but I had to let a couple of them know, like, look, the minimum requirement for a master's in Canada is a 2-1. That's like a high 3-point on a 4.0 scale. So not many people get that. And I remember there was a time that the minimum requirement for a master's program in Canada was a 2-2. But over the years, it went up to a 2-1. At least in the last 5 years or so, it's been a minimum requirement of 2-1. And we see more and more schools adjusting their minimum requirements for admission and all of that. Like ever since this policy, a couple of schools, we've seen that their minimum requirements for admission went up. We have a client who had like a really average score. The school told her, look, we're sorry, you no longer qualify. We need to consider you for a lesser program, or we can refund your money. It wasn't palatable, but I don't blame them, because now IRCC is clamping down on a lot of things. And so schools want to get their records straight. They want to get their eggs and ducks in a row, and they want to be sure that the students that they're accepting are students that have a good chance of getting a visa to come and study. So this made sense, but it was not really palatable. Anyways, what is this attestation letter? An attestation letter, who needs it, first of all? Most post-secondary study permit applicants need it. Most non-degree granting graduate programs, for example, certificate programs, graduate diplomas, they need it. The initial announcement didn't include that part, and there was a lot of misinformation that said postgraduate diplomas and certificate students will not need it. IRCC came out February 5th. They came out February 5th and more or less gave more information on what it entailed. And so postgraduate certificates and diploma programs, they do need an attestation letter. And that's why most of the schools just told students, you know what, just wait. As more information is released, we'll update you. So anyone not included in the list below would need it. And now they made a list to say who doesn't need it. So I'm trying to leave some space here so I can share the screen for you to see as I'm reading it through. Who doesn't need a provincial attestation letter? Primary and secondary students don't need it. Master's or doctoral degree students don't need it. Students who are on visiting or exchange visas, they don't need it. In Canada study permit applications and work permit holders, including study permit holders applying for an extension, they don't need it. This is great news. In Canada, family members of study permit or work permit holders don't need it. And students whose application was received before 8:30 a.m. on the day of the announcement, January 22nd, they don't need it. So those are the people who don't need it. But why the attestation letter? What does it entail? What's the use? So according to IRCC, the attestation letter is going to serve as proof that the student has been accounted for under the provincial or territorial allocation within the national cap. So part of the announcement in January 22nd was that they were going to create a cap. They're going to reduce the number of international students that they receive in Canada. And part of why they needed to do this is because they were having I think they had 900 and something in the previous year, and they had to cut it down to about 600 and something thousand. I'm going to put the exact stats somewhere here just so you can follow along. But basically, they had to create this attestation letter so that provinces are aware how close they are to the cap that each province is going to be allocated, so that it doesn't cause chaos on the overall scheme of things. So there's going to be a 35% decrease from the numbers they had in 2023. Okay, on an overall level. Yeah, so I'm going to share the exact statistics somewhere on the side just so that you see what it is. But these are the different policies that were introduced, and I hope I've tried to just like explain very briefly, because I'm trying to keep the video under 20 minutes. Very briefly, like who's affected and what the policies were. Okay, so yeah, if you have questions, drop in the comment section, and feel free to share this video with other people who are planning to come to Canada, still thinking of how, have no clue. We're happy to assist. Follow us on social media at Enter Canada, Facebook, Instagram. I think Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. For Facebook, it might be Enter Canada now, but I think I link all these things in the description somewhere. But yeah, just take note for those who are in Canada already on a study permit and you want your spouse to join you. For now, the announcement has not gone forth officially. It just says in the coming weeks. And to be honest, I personally think that coming weeks may hit in and around March 31st, when the attestation letter is expected to be made available. So the expectation is that provinces work together with schools to create an attestation letter that will be issued to students on or before March 31st this year. So that means that right now, the only applications we're submitting for clients are students who are on a master's level or PhD level, or high school students or below that, or extensions. And just take note, IRCC updated the application form for study permit extensions, I think on January 31st. So for those who want to do extensions, you don't need an attestation letter, but just make sure you use the new form, because they're pretty insistent on that. Yeah, I think I've pretty much covered these updates. If I didn't, you can feel free to share for people who are watching. I want to look at the comments for what might have been missed, and I'll definitely like the ones that are correct. I hope you have a fantastic day. Thanks for tuning in. Follow at Enter Canada. Make sure you like, subscribe, and stay tuned. I hope to be a bit more consistent. As you can see, I have a microphone now. Take care.